So, okay, who is going to tell us what happened in Abhayan and Mishra?
Ma'am, can I?
Please.
Ma'am, so in this case, Abhinand Mishra wanted to sit for MA examination in English as a private candidate in a university. And for that, the prerequisite was that he should have a bachelor's degree. And he represented that he was a graduate having a bachelor's degree and he had also taught in a certain school. And in support of this application, he submitted all the requisite documents. And after the submission of these documents, the university was supposed to issue an admit card to him, which the university did issue, but it did not reach him. And before the admit card reaching Mr. Abhinand, the university received information that there was a kind of fraud involved and he was not actually holding a bachelor's degree. And on further investigation, it was found that he did not have the requisite documents, and also they were forged, and he was also debarred from taking any university examination for a certain number of years because he was caught cheating. So, ma'am, after this, the contentions was that the appellant raised the contentions that first, it did not amount to attempting to cheat the university, but it was just the preparation because he did not receive any kind of admit card or anything. And the second was that the contention that there would have been a harm to the reputation of the university was very remote, and it could not have been said to be resulted from cheating.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
good statement of facts. For all of us, we need to understand the offense of cheating as a starting point so that we can appreciate whether it was an attempt or it was only an preparation to cheat. Because for us to say attempt to cheating, he has to done an act toward the commission of the offense. Any one of the acts towards commission. So his argument is that he was only preparing to commit cheating. He was still, because procuring the admit card is an act towards preparation and not attempt. University, on the other hand, saying that the attempt to procure the document itself is an offense of attempt, because in cheating, so that's one argument. One, he's saying that the fact that he's saying that for the offense of cheating, and let's very quickly look at 415, section 415. Which is the definition of cheating. So in cheating, what is required is that somebody should does an act before deceiving the other one. Deceiving means that he has created a belief in the other person that what I'm saying is the correct thing. And then the consequence of that should be the other person delivers a property, any property. So any property has to be delivered as a consequence of that. So he's saying, university has still not delivered me anything. So therefore, if the property has not been delivered to me, therefore, the activity of asking for it. So what was the property involved? For the offense of cheating, there has to be property involved. So in this case, what is the property involved? Even if I was to get that admit card, what is the property involved in this one? So whether the property is of two kinds, so therefore, what is required for cheating is that there should have been deception. So which is there, he has deceived, he has presented something as truth that I am a bachelor while he is not a bachelor. So deception is there. The whole process of the university happened on that belief that he was a bachelor. So therefore, they have started doing something. But whether what they have done amounts to doing something they would not have done but for the belief, and which is causing some financial loss, some kind of property loss. Not only financial basis, but within property, because property is whether your reputation is property.
Ma'am, it can be your intangible property.
So therefore, we are talking, when we are using the word property, both in terms of tangible and intangible property. So if that is the sense in that, then what is the kind of property involved which has the subject matter of this dispute? So So at one level, he said, if I had procured it, I've gone to the exam center and sat in the examination. Then I would have done an act towards commission of the offense of cheating. But at this stage, I'm still preparing. If you do not send me, then I certainly cannot sit for the exam. So actual cheating involves in permitting me to do something which you would not have otherwise. But at this stage, I am only trying to procure a document which will enable me to cheat. Without it, I cannot do any cheating. So whether the act that it was issued, it didn't reach him is a separate story. But the fact was it has been issued by the university, does at that stage itself we say an act toward commission of the offense has been happened. So when he suppose writes to the university, he has filled up his forms and he submits the forms. Has he done an act toward commission of the offense at that stage? Or whether the offense has been committed when the university start doing something, or whether the act toward commission of the offense will happen at the stage where he has received and he proceeds to the examination hall, whether it will be only when he sits in the exam and starts writing. These are the various stages to distinguish, at determine at what stage it is still preparation and at what stage the attempt towards commission of the offense of cheating has started. So what do you say? What will be the appropriate stage at which we can say that attempt to commit cheating has begun and act towards commission of the offense has been started?
Ma'am, as soon as he has submitted all the forged documents and the university has been induced to do something, which is issuing the admit card, which is something that the court does not get into because they find it in the previous clause only. But I feel it happens as soon as the university has been induced to process his application, would I feel be the offense of cheating.
If you go at the stage of that, the university has already been induced to do that, and they have started the process. So I was saying that you submitted. Suppose he had submitted, but they have still not started processing his application. And some anonymous person sent or our identifiable person sent that this application is forged. So they do nothing more than that. And they say, we are dismissing your claim right now because we have got this evidence that your documents are forged. So, well, then will you say, because the university has not done anything, they have not been induced to issue him anything, will it be attempt or not attempt?
Ma'am, it will still be an attempt. The moment he dispatched the application, that is when he entered into the realm of attempting to deceive or cheat.
Because he has done the act towards commission. Now no more act is required on his part for issuance of the document. So if we say issuance of document itself would have, suppose the university had issued the document, would it have been an offense of cheating or not? So if we say that the document was property, the fact that their reputation might be compromised if people start getting their entrance tickets on forged document, their reputation would have been targeted. So that is the argument of the university side. When they are saying that no, the property, the document itself is also a property, you have induced us to part with that property. But more importantly is also the reputation at stake, that people from our university are getting documents on fake certificates. So therefore, the fact that he has induced them to do that, his action, the last action required on his part, he had done. So last act required on his part was not when he goes to sit in the exam. That is what he is arguing. That when I go to sit in the exam, that would have been my last act. But last act is not in any case required. Act towards commission of the offense is required. And he has done everything in his power to induce the university to issue the admit card to him, and therefore he has attempted to cheat the university. Para 11, there is a thin line between preparation for an attempt to commit an offense, undoubtedly preparation for and an attempt to commit an offense. Undoubtedly, a culprit first intends to commit the offense, then makes preparation for committing it, and thereafter attempts to commit the offense. If the attempt succeeds, he has committed the offense. If he fails to reason, due to reason beyond his control, he is said to have attempted to commit the offense. Attempt to commit an offense, therefore, can be said to begin when the preparation are complete and the culprit commences to do something with the intention of committing the offense, and which is a step towards the commission of the offense. The moment he commences to do an act with the necessary intention, he commences his attempt to commit the offense. In case of attempt to cheating, the judges are saying in the subsequent para, the moment a person takes some step to deceive the person sought to be cheated, he has embarked on a course of conduct which is nothing less than an attempt to commit the offense as contemplated by section 511. He does the act with the intention to commit the offense, and the act is a step toward commission of the offense. Then look at para 15 and the quotation of Justice Knox. Many offenses can easily be conceived where, with all necessary preparation made, a long interval will still elapse between the hour when the attempt to commit the offense commences and the hour when it is complete. The offense of cheating and inducing delivery is an offense in point. The time that may elapse between the moment when the preparation made for committing the fraud are brought to bear upon the mind of the person to be deceived, and the moment when he yields to the deception practiced upon him may be a very considerable interval of time. There may be the interposition of inquiries and other acts upon his part. The acts whereby those preparations may be brought to bear upon her mind may be several in points of number, and yet the first act after preparation completed will, if criminal in itself be beyond all doubt, equally an attempt with the 99th act in the series. Again, the attempt, once again, a criminal act done in pursuance of it towards the commission of the act attempted, does not cease to be a criminal attempt, in my opinion, because the person committing the offense does or may report before the attempt is complete. So suppose it was submission by post. So Abhinand Mishra posts those documents, but the documents have still not reached the university. Can he be held liable for attempt?
Yes, ma'am.
And why so?
And now it is out of his power to take his act back, or he cannot do anything now. Now it is similar to the contract act, where once the acceptance is being given and the acceptance is being given through post and it's been dispatched, then it is out of the power of the person. So the person is held. In this case, the person will be held to deceive the university.
Yeah, because you have again done the last act, no, you have done the act which was in your control. Beyond that, you are not able to control. So suppose there's a postal strike happening because of which the letter never was not dispatched. But the university received that information. And we are not going into the question of, of the question whether how will the university come to know that he has sent us the fake documents if he has not received it. So whether the university has not received them and the university is not even aware that this man is posting it, then can we argue that because in this case the principle of contract will not apply, it will apply only when it has reached the university, even though he has no occasion to stop it. But if this had been stopped due to actions beyond his control and the university never received it, the university has no knowledge about it, whether the offense of cheating requires that by his action the university should be induced to apply that argument, then can we still say The moment he posted it, but before the university has got it, attempt is complete.
Ma'am, can we say that the inducement is of receiving an application which is full of forgery, and therefore this could be an attempt?
Yeah, so at the time of posting, it is not. But if you suppose you submitted the paper in person, so there would be a difference in the two scenario. When it is by post, and it's going to take some time. So till the time the post is received by the university, it is still preparation. Because suppose you prepared the papers and you're going to the university, it is still preparation. When you submit them in the university, then it is attempt. So I would think in case of postal category, till the time it is, even though he has done his act, but it has still not reached the stage where the other party will be induced to do something. So it is only when this other side is induced to but does not act.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, in this case, so if there is an address of the university on the post, it is understood that the post will be received by the university. So this is in a way, by the university giving that address, it is in a way accepting to receive responses. So can it be said that the attempt has been made because once the address has been written, it is destined to reach the university at some point of time, and that is inducing it to receive the letter because the address had been put?
I don't know. I would want to make a distinction between the two instances. I would want to think more like that if it is a case of postal statements, then your posting itself is not sufficient. But I'm quite sure in contract also we had this debate and difference of opinion before the law got settled, that whether it is at the time of posting or it is at the time of receiving the consent and the acceptance that the contract is complete. So I would want to think in this case, because in case of contract, there has been an interaction already between the two. So if we want to say, okay, when he procured the first interaction will be when you procure the form to fill up. So in the same manner, we will say, okay, I have done that. I think it will be still open to argument. But because if he has posted it and it has still not reached the university, it is still possible to argue that it was still preparation stage, because the moment it reaches the university, whether they issued it or not, irrespective of that, if it has reached the university, it is certainly an attempt at that stage. But before that, it is possible to argue that because you may take a form, but you may never send it to that university. It might get lost in the meanwhile. So these are all the possible arguments which the defense can take in these cases.
Ma'am, can we say something that contract is a civil matter, and civil, like, preponderance of probabilities is enough, but in criminal cases it has to be like beyond reasonable doubt that it would have induced them into doing something which they wouldn't have.
No. So then the argument will not be based on this one, that there the liabilities preponderance, or no, the standard of proof is different. In fact, the argument will be that in civil matter the consequence is not so serious. In criminal matter, it's a lifelong stigma. So therefore, one has to be more narrow in their interpretation than liberal. So in civil matters, you can have a liberal interpretation of the transaction, but in criminal matters, we try to minimize the criminal responsibility. So by saying that the moment you post it, you start it, it's a liberal possibility. The narrow possibility will be when it has been received by the university. Because till the time university receives it, there is nothing to induce the university. So even though he has done the act, but the offense of cheating requires that my action should induce. So my action is not inducing the university till the time the university receives it. So the moment university has received it, I would think that your attempt is complete at that point of time. After that, the work is to be with the university. And this transaction period is still at the stage of, in my understanding, in case of postal thing. Because I would think in terms of if I was taking or walking personally, I'm carrying all the papers, I filled up everything. Now I'm on the bus to submit it to the university. And for some reason, accident happened, something happened, the envelope never reached the university. I cannot be held liable for attempt to cheat because the envelope never reached the university. But if the envelope reaches the university, then I got no doubt about it.
Ma'am, but in cases of postal, it's out of your control, na? Like
Yeah,
beyond
yes,
your
but
control.
but if you apply that test, it's perfectly fine. But the ingredient of the offense of cheating certainly require that the other person should be induced to do something. You've
Ma'am,
still
but
not you've still not reached that stage.
the way this section 511 is framed in this, like the way we see the two illustrations, the section doesn't really matter. Like in both the cases, like they were all the unsuccessful attempts. Like actually
No,
सक्सेस तो हो ही नहीं
no,
सकती थी
no,
दोनों में,
no,
पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं थी.
nahi, no, because here it is not the impossibility. Because impossibility अगर चीज ही नहीं है जिसको आप चुरा रहे हो. So that example is slightly different. So what I'm saying is that in case if you apply the penultimate test, then I have done the last act required of me. If you apply the penultimate test, that I have done the last act required of me, now everything is on the other side. But for me, I am making a distinction by reference to the ingredients of the offense of cheating. The offense of cheating says whoever, by deceiving any person, fraudulently or dishonestly, induces the person so deceived to deliver any property to any person, or to consent that any person shall retain any property, or intentionally induces the person so deceived to do or omit to do anything which he would not do or omit if he were not so deceived, and which acts or omission causes or is likely to cause damage or harm to that person in body, mind, reputation, or property, is said to cheat. So when we look at all these ingredients, what is the key ingredient required for this? It is not only that I am deceiving. The second important argument is also that it should result into inducing. So deceiving is that I am saying something which I know is wrong. I am presenting something as truth while I know it is not truth. So that is deception on my part. But when do I deceive another person? When that person believes the truth. If that person already knows the truth, there is no cheating. There cannot be no attempt to cheat also, even though I am trying my best. So in this case, because the other person's other person's action is also required, therefore my take in this will be that it will be only after the document has been received by the university. Whether they've opened it or not is not a question, but it has to be received by the university. But I'm quite sure that you can also argue, taking the parallel
So,
which I think
ma'am,
Suhaira was taking, that
suppose
when
that we
taking a parallel from contract, but as a defense counsel, I will say we need a narrow interpretation. So there are lots of what you're learning is that there are a lot of range of arguments which can be raised by one or the other side. So the defense counsel, then you will go and say we need a narrow interpretation for imposing liability. We cannot be liberal as we will be in case of civil liabilities. Who was speaking?
yes, ma'am, I. So,
Yes, sir.
ma'am, yeah. Ma'am, so you are saying that inducement is not possible unless and until like the letter is not reached to the university or that person. Like that's why this offense attempt
Yeah,
to
because I
cheating
think
can't be
because I
happened.
think in case of cheating, two sides actions are required, not only action on one side.
Deceiving is from my end, and that deceiving should end up in inducing that
Yeah.
other party.
So without the because if the offense of cheating does not happen if the other party knows that it is cheating. That no, he's presenting I'm a police officer and I know he's not a police officer. Then if I do something, I'm clapping him. I'm not. He cannot be held liable for cheating because I know the truth. So in that sense, I think that because it is saying by deception, he then deceives the other person. So
Okay,
in
so
this
ma'am, this
case,
doctrine of 511 will not be applicable in this case. Like
doctrine of
this section 511, the illustrations, I mean, like in that, now the success
no,
it
because
doesn't really
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because in that case, there was nothing required on the other side. They didn't
Hmm.
have to do something in order to facilitate the offense. They were not obliged to keep the money there.
Yes, ma'am. Fair
So I
enough.
will make a distinction with the illustration. Illustration is talking about that the only action which are required were to be done by the offender himself. But in case of cheating, I would make a distinction saying that there was some action or some inducement on the other, the action in the sense of that they believe and they are ready to do something. They might be stopped before that. So their taking the actual action is not required, but their inducement to do the action itself is
At
sufficient.
least to their knowledge, it should be to their knowledge present.
Yeah, no, because and when within knowledge, they do not have express knowledge that they say. Suppose they have still not opened the envelope. The actual knowledge is not there. That is what is there in the content, but they have constructive knowledge. They're presumed to know what is there in the because it is their possession. So that stage will not make a distinction. But I would think that possession of that document on the basis of which they will then act is necessary. And I argue because of the reference of this narrow construction principle in criminal liability that uh, they must have got you know, they must have been induced to take action. Whether they took the action or not is not required. So in this case, of course, and on the facts of this case, they have gone a step further and have also issued. So they have certainly done more. And therefore, one would say, oh, this should have been a complete offense of cheating. Why only attempt? But because it has not been completed, therefore attempt. But if the papers have not reached him, I would want to argue that it is a stage of preparation at his part. If it is a question of, no, because I will do a parallel that whether he delivers the paper himself or whether he delivers the paper through somebody else. So when I'm taking the papers myself, you will say, oh, they are still in your possession. And therefore, you can say your preparation. But when you have passed, you have um, passed on the possession to the third party, then so I think there's a possibility of making arguments on all these grounds, saying that because you have parted possession, you do not have anything. But I would still hinge my argument on the other side that the other party has still not been in a situation where they'll be induced to do something. And the offense of cheating in this case require that there should be consequences on both these sides. So again, no, this is a very hard area to determine and to argue. What we need to know is the principle. In the attempt is a very very difficult area. Only because of this fact that how do which stage your preparation is stopped and attempt has begun. In some cases, it is clear cut. You know that this is the state of preparation. In some cases, you are not very sure as to what is the exact point. And in that case, you have to argue on the principle that you have, and it's not necessarily in the examination. A lot of students get very disheartened. They come out and they said, oh, I have said acquittal, and everybody else is saying conviction. It's of no consequence. Whether you said, when these are these touchy cases, these are these borderline cases, the important point is what is the argument you are making. So if you make an argument with it parallel to contract, it's a good argument again. That in that also you have parted possession and therefore not in your possession, it's not in your control anymore. You have done what was required. So if we apply the penultimate test, you will be held liable. But if the other student makes an argument saying that because inducement is required and the inducement cannot happen till the information is received by them, therefore we will say not attempt. Both of them are good answers. It does not matter whether you convict or acquit at the end of the answer. What is important is what is the reasoning you are giving. Whether your reasoning is a consistent reasoning on the basis of the legal principles that we have. So legal principles are penultimate test, social danger test, the penitence thing, or the one was what was the fourth one?
Impossibility test.
Impossible. So if you know what is the test that you are applying and you are arguing it consistently, what we find in some answers that they have made one argument and they have given an answer. Then perhaps this talk to somebody else on the next time, and this fellow said, no, I have said acquittal. So they'll say not. They will cut the not. So that becomes completely ridiculous answer that you have been arguing one way throughout your answer, and the end result, because perhaps your neighbor said something else, you can't say, okay, let me also say acquittal. That's not, we don't look at only acquittal conviction. We look at the whole reasoning you are giving.
In this case, why was he acquitted of the charges of forging? He was only acquitted of cheating.
Was he charged with forgery?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I think he was acquitted because he might not have committed the forgery and got the forged document from somewhere else. If he used forged documents, does that also count as forgery?
No. There will be an accomplice in that. That
Okay.
will be different sections there. So Abhay and Mishra, let's look at 25. That is where they have applied the test. In the present case, the appellant intended to deceive the university and obtain the necessary permission and the admission card, and not only sent an application for permission to sit at the university examination, but also followed it up on getting the necessary permission by remitting the necessary fees and sending the copies of his photograph, on the receipt of which the university did issue the admission card. There is therefore hardly any scope for saying that what the appellant had actually done did not amount to his attempting to commit the offense and had not gone beyond the stage of preparation. The preparation was complete when he prepared the application for the purpose of submission to the university. The moment he dispatched it, he entered the realm of attempting to commit the offense of cheating. He did succeed in deceiving the university and inducing it to issue the admission card. He just failed to get it and sit for the examination because something beyond his control took place, inasmuch as the university was informed about his being neither a graduate nor a teacher. In fact, in this one, if you were to read this, he entered the realm of attempt to commit the offense the moment he dispatched. This is what the judge is saying. The moment he dispatched it, and it is a case of postal thing. So the moment he dispatched it, he entered the realm of attempting to commit the offense of cheating. So in this case, certainly the other lawyer has not made that distinction that, and because in this case, when statements like these are made, and I'm saying something different. So I'm saying no, at the stage of dispatching, it will not be. So now this judgment is saying it will be at the stage itself. So as a lawyer, what I would argue is that this is a statement made by the way, because in this case, it was not this instance. And that is how you argue against what seems like a precedent. So in this case, the statement is very categorical. The moment he dispatched the document, he entered the realm of attempting to commit the offense of cheating. But read it in the context of the case. If the context of the case was that he was caught at this very stage, whether the judge would have given the same judgment or not, we do not know. Because what they have said is that he has not stopped at this stage. There are other factors also following. He has submitted the fee after that. So he's done. There's been a lot of back and forth. So in those cases, all that back and forth is happening because they've received it. So if there were the facts in a case where he was charged with attempt at this stage, and the judges still say that no, it is attempt, then I will say it is a precedent. But I will very much say that this line does not constitute a precedent because in this case, facts were not based on this fact. The decision was not based on this fact that he dispatched it and he has been charged for attempt to commit cheating. Are you appreciating the difference? No, the thing we're learning is we have said the decision, the law laid down by higher court, Supreme Court and High Court, is binding on the courts below them. So the statement here which says the moment he dispatched it, he entered the realm of attempting to commit the offense. Is it a ratio in this case? Is it a binding statement? And most of us ordinarily say, yeah, it is binding because it's laying down a law. He's saying that, yes, the moment you dispatch it, you are liable. You are liable because you have started towards the commission of the offense. And I've been saying that, no, it is not at this stage. You should be at the other stage. So my opposite counsel will say, oh, look, either Ben and Mishra, this is what the court have said. And therefore, you are wrong. Supreme Court has already laid this down. So what will be my answer as a lawyer to that statement that this is a ratio? This is a law laid down by the Supreme Court. I will say that the ratio is that the binding part of the judgment is that part which determines liability in the given case. So in this case, liability has not come at this stage. Liability has come because of reference of the facts which happened after this. Therefore, this is a generic statement the judges have made. This statement has not determined the liability in this case. Liability has come not because he had posted. Liability has come because after posting also he has done some more things. University has done some more things. So the final statement is not coming on the fact which will determine the liability or not. So if suppose the facts were that he was caught at this very stage of posting, we cannot say for sure that the judges would have said yes, attempt has started. Because this statement has not come on these facts. This statement has come on facts other than that, more beyond this. So therefore, the possibility of arguing the other way around is very much there, that even though the Supreme Court has written there, but it is not the ratio in that case, because the facts of this case were not this. The facts of the case were that after posting, he had done X, Y, and Z also. And therefore, cumulatively looking at the fact, the judge said liability comes in this case. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we need to look at the next case now. We still have two more cases and we are already at 12:15. Very quickly, let's look at these other
Ma'am,
cases.
ma'am,
Yeah.
impossibility test can also be applied in this case, no? Like he has done something and that was beyond his control. He has done everything he could. But yeah, your argument of course comes कि inducement होना चाहिए था. But if we keep that thing aside, then I don't think there was new thing like कोई जरूरत
No,
थी
no,
ये
no.
penultimate
Impossibility
act
नहीं हो
वाला.
सकता. Impolity test नहीं हो सकता. Because maybe the letter could have been lost on the transit. Who knows? Impossible तो नहीं है ना. ये थोड़ा हमारे इतना efficient सर्विस है कि वहां पहुंचेगा ही पहुंचेगा.
Okay.
इम्पॉसिबल तो नहीं है. इम्पॉसिबिलिटी टेस्ट नहीं अप्लाई होगा इस वाले में.
Okay, ma'am. So yeah, ma'am, ये जो like this
मगर
justice.
पेनल्टीमेट टेस्ट अप्लाई कर सकते हो. Because he has done the last act required of him. So if you apply that test, then you will say he has done and this is what the statement indicates, that in this case he has done the last act required of him.
Okay. Ma'am, Justice Raghuvar Dayal in this case, like he has said that it need not to be the penultimate act. It can be any such act, like an act is
These are
made up of so many
These are
acts.
generic. No, these are
Yeah, ma'am,
generic
that's what I was
statements.
saying. Don't you think that this may lead to some ambiguity in later on cases?
No, that's where our skill as a lawyer comes in. That which part of the statements of these judges in the whole judgment is not the ratio. You need to cull out what is the ratio in this case. So the ratio refers to that even though he has not done the penultimate act, the last act what would have been in this case to sit in the exam. Then it would have been an attempt of cheating. Not the attempt, not attempt, but the offense of cheating itself. So the judges have said, clarified that penultimate is not required. Penultimate act is not required for the offense of cheating.
No, ma'am, the justice said that penultimate act is not required in the cases of 511. Like he gave very big, ambit is big, na, like of section
No,
511.
Saurabh, there are two things. Now, this whole thing about penultimate act has been, when you say it's not required for 511, then are we saying it is required in case of 307? That is where
So
the ambiguity
that's
has
a
come.
different case
Even
because
in
section 10 come into play.
Even in 307, penultimate act is not required. But because a lot of judges have said the penultimate has been done, and the language of 307 is indicating that an act which will result into death. So if the act will not result into death, so that's where the distinction has been maintained, and that comes in. This whole discussion is there in Om Prakash. In Om Prakash, this woman is being starved. She's been locked up and she's being starved. So one day she escapes, and in a very dilapidated state, in a very, very bad physical health, she reaches the doctor, and the doctor files this complaint. So the argument is, I have not done the penultimate act. 307 requires that I should do the act which will result into death. So therefore, this whole cases of slow poisoning, slow starvation, all this will not be an act which will result into death. Today is not, she had not died, she had not died in the last 2 months also. So therefore, the argument was that one argument would be that if it is not liable under 307, he has done an act toward commission of the offense, therefore liability will come under 511. Yeah, so there will be two kinds of attempt to murder, one which will fall under 302 and some others which will fall under 511. So this is how it was happening. This was the argument, this was the line of reasoning happening due to number of cases. All that has been set at rest by the Supreme Court in Om Prakash case, where the judges say, even though the languages are different, the meaning is still the same. So you cannot say that till the time penultimate act is committed, you will not be liable under 307, but you can still be liable. So one argument was 307 is exhaustive of attempt to murder. So Om Prakash case will not result into the charge, the conviction for attempt to murder, because 307 does not cover it, and 511 only talks about those offenses for which punishment has not been provided. Those offenses for the attempt of which no punishment is provided. But because 307 provides for punishment for attempt to murder, therefore anything which does not fall under 307 can also not come under 511. So this is how discrepancy was seen to exist between the two. That there will be two kinds of, so one argument was that two kinds of 511 attempt to commit murder. One which are punishable under 307 and others which are punishable under 511. The second argument was that yes, there are two kinds of attempt to murder, those which falls within 307 and those which feel also outside, which those who fall outside are not punishable at all. So the judges are now saying we do not have to go into the relation, the difference in the language. The impact of the language is still the same. So the judgments which have emphasized that penultimate act is required under 307 have come in the context of those cases where only one act was required. So in all other cases, 307 will still apply. So this woman who has been starved over a period of time, what did the defense lawyer argue? Why is he not liable for 307, attempt to murder? What did he say?
The defense lawyer, I think, focused on the last act thing, that it should be the last act, and they also focused on the factual thing that like that husband has already provided so many things like food materials and all, and it was the woman who was not eating.
He argued that depriving her of food does come under section 307 or not. And also, is it a duty of a husband to
Look at
spend
para
parents?
7. Para 7 are the arguments on the appellant side, Om Prakash. Mr. Sethi, learned counsel for the appellant, has challenged the correctness of this view that he is liable. He concedes that it is only when a person is helpless and is unable to look after himself that the person having control over him is legally bound to look after his requirements and to see that he is adequately fed. Such person, according to him, are infants, old people, and lunatics. He contends that it is no part of a husband's duty to spoon feed his wife. His duty being simply to provide funds and foods. In view of the finding of the court below about Bimla Devi's being confined and being deprived of regular food in pursuance of a scheme of regularly starving her in order to accelerate her end, the responsibility of the appellant for the condition to which she was brought up to the 5th of June 56 is clear. The findings really go against any suggestion that the appellant had actually provided food and funds for his wife, Vimla Devi. So Bani says, she's not ill, she's not infant, she's not old. Therefore, I did not have to do this. But the judge said, you go beyond. You're agreeing that it is your duty to provide food or funds. You're not provided that. The next contention of the appellant is that the ingredients of an offense under this is para 8 I'm reading. The next contention is that the ingredients of an offense under section 307 are materially different from the ingredients of 511. The difference is that for an act to amount to the commission of the offense of attempting to commit the offense, it need not be the last act and can be the first act towards commission of the offense. But that's the language used in 511. While for an offense under 307, it is the last act which, if effective to cause death, would constitute the offense of an attempt to commit murder. The contention really is that if Vimla Devi had been deprived of food for a certain period, the act of so depriving does not come under 307, as that act could not by itself have caused the death. But the words are, by that act, if he could have caused the death. So those words are, they're using those words to say 307 scope is different than the scope of 511. It being necessary for the period of starvation to continue for a longer period to cause death, we do not agree with the contention as what the judges said. Then in para 9, the judge is saying you should follow that the ingredients of an offense of attempt to commit culpable homicide not amounting to murder should be the same as those under 511. So do we have a section which provides punishment? So, okay, we have this 308. Read 308.
Attempt to commit culpable homicide.
Mhm.
Sorry, ma'am.
Read.
Okay, sure. Attempt to commit culpable homicide. Whoever does any act with such intention or knowledge and under such circumstances that if he by that act caused death, he would be guilty of culpable homicide not amounting to murder, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years, or with fine, or with both. And if hurt is caused to any person by such act, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 7 years, or with fine, or with both.
Yeah, so the language used in both 307 and 308 is similar, that by that act they could have caused either murder or committed culpable homicide. So in para 9, they say both these sections are expressed in similar language. If section 307 is to be interpreted as urged for the appellant, 308 too should be interpreted that way. Whoever may be said with respect to whatever may be said with respect to 307 being exhaustive or covering all the cases of attempt to commit murder, and section 511 not applying in any such attempt, on account of it being applicable only to offences punishable with imprisonment for life or imprisonment, the same cannot be said with respect to the offence of attempt to commit culpable homicide punishable under section 308. An attempt to commit culpable homicide is punishable with imprisonment for a certain period, and therefore, but for it being expressly made an offence under 308, it would have fallen under 511, which applies to all attempts to commit offences punishable with imprisonment where no express provisions are made by the court for the punishment of that offence. It should follow that the ingredients of the attempt to commit culpable homicide not amounting to murder should be the same as the ingredients of the offence of attempt to commit that offence under 511. So let's read 511 again. to understand this argument, this reasoning of the court. 511 says what?
Punishment for attempting to commit offences punishable with imprisonment for life or other imprisonments.
So,
Whoever,
so in this case, we are saying that, okay, read further.
okay, ma'am. Whoever attempts to commit an offence punishable by this code with imprisonment for life or imprisonment, or to cause such an offence to be committed, and in such attempt does any act towards the
No,
commission of
we stop only on this. No? What are the categories of offences covered? Imprisonment for
imprisonment for
life
life and
or,
imprisonment.
or an imprisonment.
Imprisonment.
So if no provision is made, then 511 will apply. So if we say that the scope of 307 and 511 is different, so in case of 307, 511 not attracted because that does not deal with offences punishable with death. So if the offence is punishable with death, then certain offences will be outside the purview of 307, the series of when series of actions are required. But if the offence is punishable for culpable homicide, the attempt is punishable for culpable homicide, then there will be two kinds. One which will say if it is the last act attempted and culpable homicide did not happen, then 308 will apply. If it is a series of acts which could have caused culpable homicide, then 511 will apply. The logical thing will be that if no provision has been made for that. So if that, by that principle, then we will say that in 308, there are possibility of applying either 308 or applying 511. But no such possibility exists in case of 307. So that will lead to a very, very strange situation that the language of 307 and 308 is the same. And still in case of 308, there might be residuary offenses, which can still be punished as attempt to commit culpable homicide by reference to 511. But no such possibility will exist in case of 307, even though the language is the same. So in order to set aside this discrepancy being brought by the argument of the defense counsel, the judges are saying that it will not, the language, even though the language is different in 307 and 511, the scope of the language is still the same. And if a provision has been made, then it will be liability only under that section and not 511. Look at the bottom of this para 9. The expression whoever attempts to commit an offense in section 511 can only mean whoever intends to do a certain act with the knowledge or intent necessary or intent or knowledge necessary for the commission of the offense. The same is the meaning, the same is meant by the expression whoever does an act with such intention or knowledge and under such circumstances that if he by that act caused death, he would be guilty of murder. So they have, reading certain words in 511, they have said the meaning of the two is the same, even though the language used is different. So that's another learning understanding. How do you build up your arguments? The language of the two sections are different, but the judges are now interpreting the language of 511, saying that the meaning of 511 is still the same, which is under 307. And there's no distinction between the two. Para 10, the course of conduct adopted by the appellant in regularly starving Vimla Devi comprised a series of acts and therefore acts falling short of completing the series and would therefore come within the purview of 307. So whether it does an act which will have caused death, act will include series of acts. So even by that interpretation, we could have reached the same scenario. Para 13, illustration, you can read Nidha case also. Nidha, who had been absconding, noticing certain chowkidars arrive, brought up a sort of blunderbuss he was carrying to the hip and pulled the trigger. The cap exploded, but the charge did not go off. He was convicted for 300, read with 511. So this Nidha was a case where they were saying there are certain cases which are beyond the scope of 307, but there can be 300 read with 511 and not under 307, as was held in Francis Cassidy case, in which it was held that in order to constitute the offense of attempt to murder under 307, the act committed by the person must be an act capable of causing, in the natural and orderly course of events, death. Justice Strait both distinguished the case and did not agree with the certain views expressed therein. He expressed the view, it seems to me that if a person who has an evil intent does an act which is the last possible act that he would do towards the accomplishment of a particular crime that he has in his mind, is not entitled to pray to his aid an obstacle intervening not known to himself. If he did all that he could do and completed the only remaining proximate act in his power, I do not think he can escape criminal responsibility, and this because his own act volition, his own set volition and purpose having been given effect to their full extent, a fact unknown to him and at variance with his own belief, intervened to prevent the consequence of that act which he expected to ensuing. Illustration D to 307 itself shows the incorrectness of this view. So they have not agreed with what has been held in Cassidy. A intending to murder Z by poison, purchases poison and mixes the same with food which remains in A's keeping. A has not yet committed the offense in this section. A places the food on Z's table or delivers it to Z, servant to place it on Z's table. A has committed the attempt to murder. A's last act contemplated in this illustration is not an act which must result in the murder of Z. The food is yet to be taken by Z. It is to be served to him. It may not have been possible for A to serve the food himself to Z, but the fact remains that A's act in merely delivering the food to the servant is fairly remote to the food being served and being taken by Z. But illustration says is liable. This expression of Justice Strait was not really with reference to the offense of 307, but was with reference to attempt to commit any particular offense. So this is again the same. They were making a generic statement and was stated not to emphasize the necessity of committing the last act for the commission of the offense, but in connection with the culprit taking advantage of an involuntary act, thwarting the completion of its design, by making it impossible for the offense being committed. So in nutshell, what we are saying is this, even though the language of the two sections are different, but both of them are still requiring an act towards the commission of the offense. So whatever judgments have been mentioned in the past, which are saying that they have yet not committed the last act. So that is not the test. The context in which that statement was made was a different context. So the same thing was the thing that whether it was a precedent laid down by the judge in Cassidy's case. There's a thing that no, this was a generic statement. They were saying any offense requires that. So therefore, you cannot take it that even though the facts of the case were referring to murder, but that statement was not made in reference to murder. In para 16, it may however be mentioned that in cases of attempt to commit murder by firearm, the act amounting to an attempt to commit murder is bound to be the only and the last act to be done by the culprit. Till he fires, he does not do any act towards the commission of the offense, and once he fires and something happens to prevent that shot taking effect, the offense under 377 is made out. So this last act theory applies only when only one act is required. When series of acts is required, that is also covered under 307. This is what was actually held in Cassidy and was not approved in the case in Gopte's case. So we had these three cases which had different opinions. And at the end of the day, what is our legal point we have learned?
It need not to be the ultimate act. It can be like, because an act includes series of acts.
Yeah. So Ben, so
it can
one
be continuing
that
offense.
the scope of 5011 and 307 in relation to the acts covered are the same. It is not, it cannot be said that in case of 307, it must be the last act required, but in 511, it can be series of acts. In both cases, series of acts are also included. That's what our learning is from Om Prakash.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, Justice Dayal, he applied his reasoning of this ultimate test, penultimate test on this case also. Like this case also decided by him only.
No, but have not said ultimate, na? Ultimate में तो ओम प्रकाश में liability आ नहीं सकती.
नहीं, दोनों में यही बात तो बोली कि अल्टीमेट एक्ट नहीं होना चाहिए.
हाँ, नहीं, अल्टीमेट एक्ट उन केसेस में हो सकता है जहां सिर्फ एक ही चाहिए, जब एक ही एक्ट
वो
चाहिए.
तो मर्डर के केसेस में है. सपोज दैट फायर आर्म किया है, बंदूक से मारा
हाँ,
है,
तो वो वाला केस
एक
तो है
एक्ट
ही ना एक्सेप्शन, वो केस तो एक्सेप्शन है ही ना. तो उसमें आपको जब इसमें एक ही एक्ट चाहिए, वो एक एक्ट आपने कर दिया तो लाइबिलिटी आ जाएगी. मगर उसमें भी अगर इम्पॉसिबल वाली कैटेगरी है तो वहां पे फिर डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन आ गया है. So again, this statement which the judges are making as a lawyer, you should be able to use them to your benefit by reference to either whether this statement was made a generic statement, whether it was made without reference to the facts of this particular case. So all this can give you tools to make an argument differing with what the statement has been in a particular case. If you can say that even though the statement has been made, but it was made in the context of this case, or it was made without referring to the fact. This was not applicable, this was not relevant statement at all because of the facts in this case. So in the previous one, what was the name? Abhanan Mishra. Abhanan Mishra, even though the judges say the moment he posted, he has done the act, but this has no relevance to the facts of this particular case, Abhanan Mishra. Within Abhanan Mishra, more things did happen. And the judges in the same para have referred to those other things which this fellow has done. So they have not decided the case by reference to only this fact, that because he had parted, therefore he is liable. This is not what the judges said. The judges said that he has done this as well as these other things. So we cannot say that in Abhanan Mishra, they have held that in all cases where the only thing the person has said is to post, we do not know, because in the facts of this case, more thing than this has happened. So therefore, the statement of the judge saying the moment he posted, he starts the commission of the towards commission offense is not necessarily the ratio in this case. This is a statement made by the way. Maybe the judges will still uphold it. That's a different thing. But as of now, that statement in that judgment cannot be seen as a binding ratio, that in all cases where you post, it is certain law that you are liable. Even though the Supreme Court judge has mentioned that. That's how we are learning how to make an argument in the face of a statement by the Supreme Court. And it is a statement of law. But statement of law is also not binding unless it is a ratio in that case. So we have to learn to understand the doctrine of precedent also.
मैम सॉरी मैम,
Yes,
लेकिन
yes, Abhi.
क्लास खत्म कर रहे हैं मैम, अभी फोकस नहीं कर पा रहे हैं अभी.
अभी हमें एक केस और खत्म करना है, बस उसके बाद मतलब खत्म कर देते हैं. ये तो फिर मुश्किल हो जाएगी, केस कोर्स नहीं खत्म होगा.
ओके मैम, ओके.
इसको दोबारा से रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर है, फिर से सुनोगे तो शायद समझ में ज्यादा आ जाएगा, जो कुछ नहीं समझ आ रहा.
मैम 3 घंटे का लेक्चर है मैम, इतना टाइम कहाँ होता है.
हाँ, तो बीच में 15 मिनट का गैप तो दिया ना.
वो तो है मैम.
आपकी क्लासेस दो इकट्ठी नहीं होती.
यस मैम, लेकिन अभी तो
कभी 3 क्लास भी इकट्ठी होती है.
हाँ मैम, लेकिन इतना तो मैं कभी पढ़ता ही नहीं ना. अभी मेरा कोटा पूरा हो गया अभी.
तो आप चले जाइए.
ओके मैम.
Somebody is asking where can we find recorded lectures. आपके सबके पास एक्सेस है टू माय रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर, ड्राइव में है. So, okay, the last one is state of Maharashtra, Muhammad Yaqub. Who knows the facts?
Yes, ma'am.
Deepika, yes.
Ma'am, police received information that silver was transferred illegally out of India, and
Hmm? Hmm.
the silver will be carried in a jeep and truck to the ship. The police followed the jeep and the truck on the same day, and when the jeep and the truck stopped on the some, it was found that some heavy small metals were unloaded from the truck, and some were placed ground near the river. When the authorities approached, they found that they heard the sound of the engine of the seacraft from the creek, and the respondent one was in the jeep, and there were two other persons who were in the truck. There was some silver found on the ground, and which were taken towards the creek, and some were in the jeep, and some were in the truck, which was concealed, were found. And an unlicensed pistol was also found from respondent one by the personal search. And the respondent plainly denied all the allegations, and they said that they were just employed to carry the jeep and the truck to another destinations, and were not aware that silver was present in their truck. But the trial magistrate found them guilty and convicted them to rigorous imprisonment.
Which court?
Ma'am, it was by the trial magistrate, I guess. I'm not very
So
sure.
are you reading the trial magistrate judgment?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
No, ma'am. I'm further completing it by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, we
I
are reading the
didn't.
Supreme Court judgment. We are reading the
Yes,
Supreme
ma'am.
Court.
Yes, ma'am. I
So
read half of the judgment, ma'am. Actually, facts, and I
yeah, so
couldn't read the whole case.
they were convicted by first court, acquitted by the second court. So therefore, the state of Maharashtra has come in appeal. And the whole question is again, when the silver boxes have been down, kind of taken away off from the truck in which they were smuggled, they were being carried on, and they've been put on the creek. Creek is a no is a small dark place, uninhabited, etc. So in that case, the whole question is that whether they are saying we are still at the state of preparation. We have still not started uploading these boxes onto the yacht. There's no yacht in sight. So they did hear a engine whirring. So there was some yacht was nearby, but we have still not reached the stage where they have started uploading those boxes onto the yacht. He said, if you caught it at that stage, it would have been the stage of attempt. But we have only downloaded the goods. They are contraband goods, all right. But the offense of smuggling, the attempt to commit the offense of smuggling does not commence till the time I start uploading the boxes. So what do you think? Are they at the stage of attempt, or they are still at the stage of preparation? They say we were doing at the stage of preparation. We have only brought the goods, we have put those goods there. All of them have still not been even downloaded. There's still some more on the truck. So on the basis of these facts, can we say they are liable for attempt to smuggle?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Ma'am,
What are the
because
facts which will suggest it is attempt and not preparation?
had he not been nabbed by the police, then he must be successful in committing the offense. No.
Maybe he may not. Maybe he will not. This was saying that no, there's no yard. We have not started. Maybe we will change our mind.
Then this defense will be taken by all that we change our mind, and
Yeah, I don't know. But the question is that can we accept this defense? If not, then what are the facts which will suggest that this is not a probability?
Yeah, it is highly probable that he will reach there. Otherwise, why would we like stop in
No,
the
no.
between?
Why is it probable? One, they're saying because they have downloaded their goods at a secluded place near the river. There are some more boxes still hidden. So they were not transporting property in an open manner. there was an engine bearing, which means that they were actually, if the police had not intervened, they would have completed their act and run away with that silver. So the facts adjoining their activities, it is not merely the act of, suppose they had downloaded those things on an open port. We can't say attempt is there, they are still preparing. Maybe it is contraband good, but it's all out in the public. But the fact that it was done in a secretive manner, it was brought in a secretive manner, it has been downloaded in a secretive manner, it is dark and midnight. So all this was saying that they were trying to do their best to smuggle. So we don't have to wait till that point of time for them to say, now the attempt has begun. The fact of downloading itself is at a stage where you have started doing the act. Because so there may be three stages. One, when you are transporting. The second one, you are downloading. The third stage is when you are uploading. So should we say that when you were driving, that itself was an attempt? Or will it be only at this, because in this case, downloading has started, uploading hasn't happened. The judges are saying it is attempt. So, but what about the stage when they were driving towards the creek?
And why do you think they will not upload it? It is their normal
Maybe
conduct.
the yacht never came.
It is like it is something different now. Like it's not probable. Of course, they
No.
have.
Tell me, Saurabh, what would you say to the stage earlier? I am driving towards the creek, and my truck is stopped. Can I be held liable for attempt to smuggle? So in this case, the judge have said there was a definite information they had. Para 9. In the instant case, the trial court has that the following have been established. The officers had received definite information that silver would be carried in a truck and a jeep from Bombay to Basin for exporting from the country. And for this purpose, they kept a watch to set, then followed the jeep and the truck at some distance. They could have nabbed them there. Why did they follow? But they did. Accused 1 was driving the jeep, while 2 was driving the truck, and accused 3 was cleaner on it. 15 silver ingots were found concealed in the jeep, and 24 silver ingots were found hidden in the truck. The jeep and the truck were parked near the common creek, from where they could be easily loaded in some sea craft. 4 silver ingots from the vehicle had been actually unloaded, and not download तो हम लोग data करते हैं, unloaded, and were found lying on the side of the road near the footpath leading to the sea. On being questioned, accused 1 gave his false name and address. The accused were not dealers in silver. So these are this whole series of facts. Suppose they were dealers in silver. They had unloaded the ingots on the riverside. But the riverside was shallow and no sea craft could have come there. So there are certain areas where the sea crafts can come, some areas where they cannot come. We would have difficulty in holding them liable for this. They might have stopped because their truck failed or something else might happen. And they have got lawful explanation why they are having those ingots, silver ingots. So certainly the cumulative facts are saying that in these facts, they are not laying down a law in this case. They are applying the law on the facts and circumstances of the case, that in these circumstances, when these facts have been proved, they are not the dealers. They are starting on the riverside where a sea craft can come. They have hidden those goods, both in the truck and the jeep. They have been following. So certainly at this stage they were following. They could have gone anywhere. They may not have stopped here. So if you stop them at the stage of when they are still driving, they could say, no, we were not going on the creek. हम तो अभी दूसरे शहर में जा रहे थे. So the possibility of them creating a doubt that they were not even wanting to smuggle them. They were going to deliver them to a silver smith. So the possibility of doubt was very much there while they were still on the jeeps. So they might be doing some illegal activity by Suppose there was a limit that you cannot transport the silver from one state to other. Then there might be that offense that you were smuggling within the state, but your charge here is outside the country. So therefore, if you stop them at that stage, even in such cases, no, there were cases where transport of grain, food grains was prohibited. There were periods when we had all this limitation that you cannot transport food without a license from one state to another state. So there were people who were found going towards the border of the other state. So they were caught just 10 kilometers before that. And the judges said that no, the possibility of you changing your mind, the penitentia, the possibility of changing your mind is now very limited, and they were stopped at that stage. So if they crossed, the offense is committed. So you stopped them at 10 kilometers to the border. The judges said attempt has begun. You stop them 100 kilometers from the border. The possibility of they changing their mind or they're going somewhere else, doing something else with it cannot be ruled out. So therefore, it's always a question of full facts, which will determine. In para 13, they're saying what constitutes an attempt is a mixed question of law and fact, depending largely on the circumstances of the particular case. Attempt defies a precise and exact definition. Broadly speaking, all crimes which consist of the commission of affirmative acts are preceded by some covert or overt conduct, which may be divided into 3 stages. The first stage exists when the culprit first entertains the idea or intention to commit an offense. Second stage, he makes preparation to commit the offense. The third stage is reached when the culprit takes deliberate, overt steps to commit the offense. Such overt act or step, in order to be criminal, need not be the penultimate act toward the commission of the offense. It is sufficient if such act or acts were deliberately done and manifest a clear intention to commit the offense aimed, being reasonably proximate to the consummation of the offense. And then they have emphasized again, must be an act during the course of commission of that offense. 14 is again an example of they applying these principles to the facts of the case. Now, let us apply the above principles to the facts of the case in hand. The intention of the accused to export the silver from India by sea was clear from the circumstances enumerated above. They were taking the silver ingots concealed in the 2 vehicles under the cover of darkness. They had reached close to the seashore and had started unloading the silver there near a creek from which the sound of the engine of a sea craft was also heard. Beyond the stage of preparation, most of the steps necessary in the course of export by sea had been taken. The only step that remained to be taken toward the export of the silver was to load it on a sea craft for moving out of the territorial waters of India. But for the intervention of the officers of law, the unlawful export of silver would have been consummated. The clandestine disappearance of the sea craft, when the officers intercepted and rounded up the vehicles, and the accused at the creek, reinforces the inference that the accused had deliberately attempted to export silver by area in contravention of law. It is important to bear in mind that the penal provisions with which we are concerned have been enacted to support the evil of smuggling precious metal out of India. Smuggling is an antisocial activity which adversely affects the public revenue. A narrow interpretation of the word attempt, therefore, in these penal provisions which will impair their efficiency. Now you are again seeing another line of reasoning. Remember our principle of mens rea, strict liability. There also the judges looked at the object of the legislation, whether applying the narrow, the strict principle of mens rea, that in all cases they must have the mens rea. If it will frustrate the purpose, the judges will go for other interpretation. Here also they are saying it is even more justified because the purpose of law will be frustrated. We take a narrow view that we wait till the time it is loaded on the vehicle. Narrow interpretation of the word attempt, therefore, in these penal provisions which will impair their efficiency, as instrument of combating this beneficial activity has to be eschewed. These provisions should be construed in a manner which would suppress the mischief, promote their object, prevent their subtle evasion, and foil their artful circumvention. Thus constitute the expression attempt within the meaning of these penal laws and penal provisions is wide enough to take in its fold any goods deliberately to the delivered to the place of embarkation, such act or acts being reasonably proximate to the completion of the unlawful export. The inference arising out of the facts and circumstances established by the prosecution unerringly pointed to the conclusion that the accused had committed the offense of attempting to export silver out of India by sea in contravention of law. So we are now hearing another test, approximate test. If your act is approximate, it is so close. So this is the alternative of the penitentia. We have reached so close to it that you cannot round retreat. There is no possibility of you now changing your mind. So you are so proximate to the act. So here you are finding two sets of reasoning. One set of reasoning, which is saying purpose of the law will be frustrated. If we say liberal, we say we construe the attempt only to the extent when you start loading the goods. Then it will frustrate, it will be too late in the day, they might just run away with it. So therefore, they have looked at both the things, that one is the proximity test, the other is the purpose of the legislation. So they have applied that. That is where you keep on saying that new tests are being evolved, what the judges consider as just in the circumstances, that no, this person must not go without punishment. The judges do give the reasoning accordingly. So here we are finding two sets of reasoning by the judge. One is the proximate test, the other is the object of the legislation. The concurring judge, again, it is a concurring judge, but more reason, they want to explain it more. So the Justice Chinnappa Reddy has emphasized, this is after, this is before Russell on crime. The actus reus necessity to constitute an attempt is complete if the prisoner does an act which is a step towards the commission of a specific crime, which is immediately and not merely remotely connected with the commission of it, and the doing of which cannot reasonably be regarded as having any other purpose than the commission of the specific crime. Here again, we are finding that they are saying one is this act towards the commission, but it should be proximate. So the chain of, when you're saying it is closer to the commission of the offense, not any act, because any act will then fall into the category of preparation. On the para 31, the second part of it, we think that the best propounded by the test propounded by the first sentence should be understood. You can look at Malkiyat Singh, should be understood with reference to the facts of the case. Again, another technique I was saying. The offense alleged to be contemplated was far removed from completion in that case, that the offender had yet ample time and opportunity to change his mind and proceed no further, his earlier acts being completely harmless. That was what the court meant, and the reference to the appellants in the sentence where the test is propounded makes it clear that the test is propounded with reference to the particular facts of the case and not as a general rule. Otherwise, in every case, when an accused is interrupted at the last minute from completing the offense, he may always say that when he was interrupted, he was about to change his mind. So proximity and penitentia, they are explaining here. So this is what the case I was saying, Malkiyat Singh is about. A truck which was carrying paddy was stopped at Samalkha, 32 miles from Delhi and about 15 miles from the Delhi-Punjab boundary. The question was whether the accused were attempting to export paddy from Punjab to Delhi. It was held on the facts of the case. The offense of attempt has not been committed. And that is where the equation is coming. So the judge said, in this case, Justice Ramaswamy, the test for determining whether the act of the appellant constitutes an attempt or preparation is whether the overt act already done are such that if the offender changes his mind and does not proceed further in its progress, the acts already done would be completely harmless. In the present case, it is quite possible that the appellants may have been warned that they had no license to carry the paddy, and they may have changed their mind in any place between Samalkha and Delhi Punjab boundary and not have proceeded further in their journey. So these statements have been explained by the concurring judge, saying that these statements were made in the context of this case and they are not laying down a general principle. 32. Let me now state the result of the search and research. And this is the law which he is explaining. In order to constitute an attempt, first, there must be an intention to commit a particular offense. Second, some act must have been done, which would necessarily have to be done toward the commission of the offense. And third, such act must be proximate to the intended result. The measure of proximity is not in relation to time and action, but in relation to intention. In other words, the act must reveal with reasonable certainty, in conjunction with other facts and circumstances, and not necessarily in isolation, an intention as distinguished from a mere desire or object to commit the particular offense, though the act by itself may be merely suggestive or indicative of such intention. That it must be, that is, it must be indicative or suggestive of the intention. For instance, in the instant case, had the truck been stopped and searched at the very commencement of the journey, or even at Sirsat Naka, the discovery of silver ingots in the truck might at the worst lead to the inference that the accused had prepared or were preparing for the commission of the offense. It could be said that the accused were transporting or attempting to transport silver somewhere, but it would not necessarily suggest or indicate that the intention was to export silver. The fact that the truck was driven up to a lonely creek from where the silver could be transferred into a seafaring vessel was suggestive or indicative, though not conclusive, that the accused wanted to export the silver. It might have been open to the accused to plead that the silver was not to be exported, but only to be transported in the course of intercoastal trade. But the circumstances that all this was done in a clandestine fashion at dead of night revealed with reasonable certainty the intention of the accused was the silver to be exported. Again, facts and circumstances. So at what stage it will stop? The preparation will stop and the intention. So there are other stages of intention of an offense, but different offense. Here the offense is attempt to smuggle silver out of the country. So that's where they follow the truck to that point. If they had intercepted earlier, there would have been other intention, other attempts, other offenses attempted, but not this offense. So with that, we must stop. It's been really 3 hours for you today. But I could not help it. Your classes were preponed. There was supposed to be semester was till the end of this month, but now we know it is 10 days earlier. So I have to take some extra classes because of that.
Thank you, ma'am.
So please put your attendance. You are doing that. That's good. So tomorrow we need to look at Gyan Kaur and also the legislation now which has taken the penalty, the penal provision out of the scope of 309.
Ma'am, I have some questions on joint liability.
Ma'am, just a small clarification, ma'am.
So yes, Rishabh, and then we'll come back to Saurabh.
Ma'am, all the attempts which, like, suppose if an attempt does not fall under 307, that will definitely come under 511.
No, because 307 is only talking about attempt to commit murder.
Yes, ma'am. Suppose if it is not, if an attempt of offense happened and it does not had apprehension for murder, then
No, if you suppose you look at the scheme of the legislation. Suppose attempt to commit theft. I don't remember, but just check. I don't think there is any section which punishes attempt to commit theft. If there is no such section, then it is 511. But I think attempt and commission of dacoity. Just check. I don't have my IPC right now here. So it's slightly difficult for me to trade, but let me just check. Let me try to find those offenses. Look at 393. It also is giving you separate section, attempt to commit robbery. 393. So attempt to commit robbery, a
Yes,
separate
ma'am.
section like 307 has been provided for. So this will not come under 511. But look at
Okay, ma'am.
so there are other sections which do not make a special provision for attempt to commit that offense.
Yes, ma'am.
Criminal breach
Thanks.
of trust. Look at criminal breach of
Okay,
trust.
ma'am.
So is there any section which says attempt to commit criminal breach of trust? It's not there. So in case of attempt to commit criminal breach of trust, it will be 511.
Okay, ma'am.
So all other offenses for which no specific provision has been made, for those offenses, attempt will be punished under 511. So it is not only a question of only the attempt to commit murder. Any other, because for attempt to murder, we already have 307. So all cases where a specific offense has been made of attempt to commit that particular offense, it will be tried under that section. But if there is no provision made for attempt to commit a certain offense, then it will be 511. But that offense has to be which is not punishable, which is punishable with life imprisonment or any other imprisonment. So which meant that the offense of murder, attempt to commit murder is not falling under 511 because it does not deal with those offenses. And that is where the whole question between 307 and 308 had come in. So now we know that if there is a specific offense, which is attempt to culpable homicide, attempt to murder, we have got 307, 308. If it is attempt to commit theft, it will be 511. Now, Saurabh had a question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is on section 34. So, ma'am, one thing is very much clear is common intention is needed. And the another thing is, ma'am, in this case of Suresh versus State of UP, Justice Thomas has said that the criminal act consisting of series of acts should have been done not by one person. And ma'am, in the another part of judgment which is given by Justice Sethi along with Justice Agrawal, there it is written that it is now well settled that no overt act is necessary to attract the applicability of section 34 for a co-accused who is otherwise proved to be sharing common intention with the ultimate act done by any one of the accused having such intention. So my question is, ma'am, the act is how many persons should have done the act? More than one person or like
Yes. Yeah,
more than one
more than
person?
one person, but overt act on part of each one of them is not required.
It
But
can
it
be
may be a
covert act.
covert act. It may be a covert act.
Okay, so it can be kind of omission, but it should be something should be done, either omission,
So
either commission or
the man
omission,
who is the man who is waiting in
waiting
the car,
outside.
that's a covert
Yeah.
act. He's not doing anything in the commission of the offense.
Okay. Suppose that there are 6 persons. So if 2 person are like someone is doing the final act and another one is doing like an co-attack, then it like they all will be come under this common intention. Like this
No,
is
no.
section 34.
The moment you talk about 6, so
Hmm.
then we have to think whether they itself are becoming an unlawful assembly, because more than
Okay,
5 or
let's say
more,
4. Let's say 4.
so it will be high. It will be 149 or 141.
Okay, let's say 4, ma'am. If there are 4
Yeah.
persons and one person is doing that, suppose that killing the person, and another one is waiting outside and like he's the driver, and other are like 2 person are there, they are just standing there. So they all will be liable for this. They all will be
Yes.
culpable. No? Yeah, okay. Ma'am, another question is like it's from the last year question. Ma'am, I'll post the question in the comment section. A minute.
I can't see it now.
Wait 1 minute, ma'am.
The attendance has gone after that.
Ma'am, I posted the question.
Again?
I have posted in the comment section.
Okay, again. Sorry. A group of 8 persons, 5 armed with knives, 3 with lathis, gathered outside the house of Naresh in midnight and started calling out his name in abusive manner. Coming to this, owing to this nuisance created by these people, neighbors of Naresh started objecting with infatuated these armed men. The men armed with knives attacked 2 of the neighbors of Naresh and killed them, while those coming for rescue were also attacked by men carrying lathis who were using lathis to keep all the accused at bay. Can all, what is the further question?
Can all the accused be convicted for murder of these 2 neighbors? So, ma'am,
So
I
tell
think the
me,
section 149 will be applicable, and for the purpose of section 141, the fourthly will be
for, no,
sufficient.
no, for 141, was
So,
there
of
a common,
criminal
what was
force
the common, no, what was the common intention? What was the common
object.
object? What was
The
the
common
common
object
object?
was to mm, uh, deprive any person of the enjoyment of a right of way. I can say that.
No, what was your, they were midnight and started calling out his name in abusive manner. So whether any of the objects, whether they constitute whether they constitute an unlawful assembly is my first question. Because of more than 5, the first thing you
Yes,
should ask yourself is, do they constitute an unlawful assembly?
yes, ma'am,
But
because
then,
there are more than 5.
no, merely because of more of 5, 5 people in our class. Are we, there are more than 5 here. Are we
But they
constituting
will
an
come
unlawful
under
assembly?
fourthly section.
No, you have to look at 141 to find out whether any of those 5 objects which are listed there. One was to overawe a public servant is not there. What were the other 4 categories?
Resist the execution of any law or any legal process. It is also not
Not
there.
there. That's also not
To
there.
commit
Then
any
third,
mischief or criminal trespass or any other offense. Other offense is defined there. So yeah, it can come
ah,
under other offense.
no. What other offense? What other offense
Under
are we
section
thinking of?
40, more than
If it is mischief, whether mischief or trespass. So whether they're, because why were they shouting? No, so why were all these outside people? Whether there's anything mentioned, why did they go there? So whether their offense constitute either mischief or trespass. Trespass still not there, and
no.
that's not also known that that was their object. So was it mischief? If it's mischief, then they constitute unlawful assembly. So only if they constitute unlawful assembly, so then they were unlawful assembly.
And these
Then
are all the
the
facts we have.
look at the stages. No, look at this. So funds were said as okay because this was the purpose was to create either mischief. So you will say mischief in this case certainly. So they are creating that nuisance,
Hmm.
and that was the object. They all went with that. So they certainly had some. If we even say that they had intention because they were armed with knives and all these things, therefore we say that they have gone there to commit an offense, even assuming that. So then the act should have been done in furtherance of that intention. So their intention, what their intention, furtherance of that object, whether beating of the neighbors or killing or whatever has it happened in furtherance of their common object?
No, ma'am, but they have enough knowledge under 149, second part.
It was likely to be committed.
Yes, ma'am. We have the knowledge that it is likely to be committed because two persons are carrying gun, and the one other thing, there is this line that people who were coming to rescue them, the men with the lathis, they attacked those men also. So yeah, they were
Is it
somehow
is it is it
participating in their
possible?
object.
No. Is it possible to say with certainty? Now, this is certainly a good thing that you have pointed the right part of the section, that it was likely to be committed. So when you go armed with knives and all, and you are shouting at one person's house, do you expect that the neighbors will actually intervene?
Yeah, ma'am. Of course, at some point of time they will come and say, "Ki, why are you shouting?"
अच्छा, हम तो
Of
सारे
course,
लोग तो अंदर
they may not say for
अक्सर
some
तो हो रहा
minutes
है कि लोग
maybe.
तो अंदर घुस जाते हैं, वो तो आता ही नहीं सामने। सामने मर्डर का तो लोग अंदर घरों में छुप जाते हैं।
जब बाहर आएंगे तब पता चलेगा ना उन्हें कि गन लिए हैं ये लोग।
हाँ, तो जब आए देखा गन है तो फिर भी वहीं पे खड़े हैं, उनको लोग मर गए, फिर भी और भी लोग इंटरवीन कर रहे हैं। सो इट्स अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ कंटेंशन अगेन, that whether the
मैम इससे
intervention by
ऊपर अगर
neighbor was an
people,
expected category. It will depend on
these
neighborhood to neighborhood also. So
ma'am, these
certainly
people
the
only
possibility.
objected and they got infuriated. They
हाँ,
only
नहीं,
objected.
Saurabh, our purpose at this point of time is to learn to make our step-by-step application of the law. So if we want to say that, yeah, they have to be held liable, so suppose in
One
this one, who did what? Owing to the nuisance created by these neighbors of Naresh started objecting, which infuriated these armed men. Men armed with knives attacked two of the neighbors of Naresh and killed them, while those coming for the rescue were also attacked by men carrying the lathis, who were using lathi to keep all the rescuers at bay. So all of them have participated in this fracas. It is not that so the question here will be, suppose even if we say that this was not likely to be, they would still be under the common intention, because the moment they started doing it, so they certainly had common intention, even if they were, it can, if even if it is argued that they at that point of their object was not to attack the neighbor, their object was to do something to this fellow Naresh. They have done nothing to Naresh. So one possibility of arguing that it was likely that Naresh neighbor would object. The other figure that no, they were not expecting the Naresh neighbor to object, but they did. So on that point of time, when they started beating up, they certainly formed a common intention at that point of
at
time.
that very
They had
moment,
not
yeah,
come,
spur
they
of
had
the
not
moment.
come with the common intention to beat the neighbors, that intention was formed at that very moment. So the minimum
so
liability which will come will be all certainly by reference to 34. So the possibility of arguing 149 and then saying 141 and saying this was likely to be committed is also there, but much more forceful is
common
certainly 34
intention.
liability. 34 liability.
Okay, ma'am, I was just confused, like for using common intention because they don't have any intention like previously because their
No,
target
but that
was
was
Naresh.
formed ना, पहले तीनों मारा फिर बाकी तीन ने भी मारा, so वो that intention was formed at that point of time.
Yeah, ma'am. With
So
this case
here,
is very much similar to Rawal, this Penta Venkalu case, in
yeah,
this facts. And in that
no,
Venkalu
not
case,
Venkalu, the other one, where these people got down from the bus and beat up the man.
no, I think, ma'am, in Venkalu there was this thing that a group of people went to like the hut and they like burned the hut,
ना
and
तो
उनका
नहीं,
servant था and they were
वो तो गए थे ना, वो तो गए थे उसी इंटेंशन से, उनकी इंटेंशन तभी थोड़ी फॉर्म हुई। नहीं, मगर जो दूसरा है ना, अभी तक मुझे नाम याद
हाँ
आ,
जिसपे वो बस से उतरते हैं और मारने
हाँ,
लगते
बस
हैं
से
उसको।
उतरते जाते हैं। हाँ, सो उसका फैक्ट सिमिलर है कि ऑन द स्पॉट वो लोग
Punaya, Punaya,
जब वो लोग,
state
हाँ,
of
पुनैया
पुनैया,
पुनैया या
पुनैया, so in Punaya they had not, because they were in the bus already, they were not knowing कि दूसरी पार्टी भी इसी बस में आ जाएगी, but seeing that party in the bus, then they decided कि ठीक है चलो अब इसको देख लेते हैं। They were going somewhere else. Initially there was no plan कि हमने इनको मारना है आज, so the intention can be formed at that
बट
very
इट
point of
कैन
time.
बी इट मैम, हो सकता है उन्होंने फॉलो किया हो ना उसको क्योंकि उनकी पहले से भी राइवलरी चल रही थी और वो एफआईआर
उसमें
करने जा
फैक्ट्स में
रहे
नहीं
थे।
लिखा है, फैक्ट्स में नहीं लिखा है, वो हमारा हाइपोथेटिकल हम नहीं कुछ कह सकते, बिकॉज फैक्ट्स में नहीं लिखा है that they were expecting them to, not expecting this man to get into the bus.
डेफिनेटली इन फैक्ट्स इट्स रिटन कि दे वर ऑन द सेम बस।
हाँ, नहीं, मगर उसमें यह है कि पहले वो बैठे थे, फिर ये दूसरा बंदा आया और इस बंदे का टिकट कहीं और था, but they got down at the same place where this fellow got down.
Yes, ma'am. But this case was not for the intention. Intention.
नहीं, उसमें हमने डिस्कस नहीं किया because that was not challenge. उसमें मर्डर को ही चैलेंज किया था. So there are
300
cases where
clause 3 में था
where
वो.
the conviction is challenged on different grounds. If they are saying that कि नहीं हमारी common intention नहीं थी, that was not even objected to. Common intention थी, मगर जो हमने act किया, that was not murder. Should have been only grievous hurt. That's what their contention was, ना? तो
Okay,
डिफेंस
ma'am.
क्या
So
argument दे रही है
the
वो
present case
डिफेंस
can be brought. The present case can be brought under section 34 also, and
34
as
तो
well as
पक्का ही लगेगा. हाँ, 34 तो पक्का लगेगा, but 149 लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा, that's a possibility of argument
okay. So
on
suppose
both
that,
the
ma'am,
sides.
we as a student are writing the answer. So what should we do? We should write both the things, both the
Yeah,
sections.
49 में बोलोगे कि no, we would think that it is a likelihood. But even
Yeah,
if there was
under
no likelihood, there's 34 certainly. The common intention was formed that at that point of time. Even if we say that the common object was not to beat up the neighbor, but it was certainly coming into the category of likelihood. But even if we say that no, in most places we have found that when armed people come and attack, nobody intervenes. Even if we take that argument, 34 liabilities in any case there.
yeah,
So show your
and that
awareness.
yes, ma'am. 34 is applicable only because of, ma'am, this line. This line suppose that the people who were coming to rescue, they attacked them. That's why we can say
Yeah, yeah.
that they
So,
have a common intention, solid
bilkul.
intention.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Because the
Thank you,
other
ma'am.
set of people also join ना, जब पहले को अटैक किया तो दूसरे को लोग को और
हाँ.
बचाने हैं तो उनको भी अटैक किया, तो कॉमन इंटेंशन वाज फॉर्म्ड एट दैट स्टेज.
और मैम अगर ये लोग शांत बैठे रहते, कुछ नहीं करते, तो मे भी मुश्किल हो जाता कॉमन इंटेंशन लगाना.
हाँ,
कोई ओवरटेक
जो
किया
जो
ना
जो
करते.
तीन लोग, हाँ, मगर नो, बट इफ दे, there's a whole question whether they have still continued to be an
Member
unlawful
of
assembly. तो
नहीं
common,
मैम, फुल की बात कर रहा हूँ.
suppose all these 6 people were there. So जब नरेश बाहर आ गया तो 3 लोगों ने उसको मारा, 3 लोग सिर्फ
ठीक है.
खड़े थे.
वो तो फिर स्टार्टिंग का उनका इंटेंशन था ना,
नहीं,
मतलब
इंटेंशन वो
स्टार्टिंग का
कॉमन
ऑब्जेक्ट
ऑब्जेक्ट
था.
में आएंगे, वो कॉमन ऑब्जेक्ट में
हाँ,
आएंगे,
ऑब्जेक्ट था,
कॉमन,
ऑब्जेक्ट था.
क्योंकि इसमें 34 में दे हैव डन एन ओवर्ट एक्ट आल्सो. इन 149 ओवर्ट एक्ट इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. जो 3 लोग खड़े हैं, सपोज 3 ने सिर्फ मारा, 3 लोग सिर्फ खड़े रहे, बट बिकॉज दे आर कॉन्स्टिट्यूटिंग एन अनलॉफुल असेंबली, no action is required on their part. They will be liable just because they continue to be the member of the unlawful assembly.
अगर नरेश आ जाता तो
हाँ, नरेश आता, सपोज 3 लोग उसको मारते हैं, उनमें सिर्फ एक ही मारता, बाकी 5 लोग खड़े रहते थे.
फिर कॉमन इंटेंशन
तो
वाला
ये
एंगल हम नहीं
लाइबिलिटी
लगा
34
पाते.
नहीं, फिर ये लाइबिलिटी 34 की सिर्फ नहीं है, ये 149 की लाइबिलिटी है.
ओके.
Because they were
और
still
इसमें
constituting, so they had common intention also. But liability is not coming only because of 34. Liability is coming for 149 also because they were still a member of the unlawful assembly. The purpose of the 6 of them going together was to overthrow that person or cause some offense against this person. Beating is an offense. So if that was the object, they were part of that assembly. Merely being part of the assembly itself brings in liability. उनको कुछ
अंडर
करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
149.
हाँ, 149 में करने की कुछ जरूरत नहीं है, मगर
तभी
34 में
मैं
तो
बोल रहा था कि ये लोग इधर 149 में डेफिनेटली लायबल हो जाएंगे, क्योंकि बहुत हाईली लाइकली था कि वो उसको लाइक
नेबर्स
आ रहे हैं वहाँ
इंटरव्यू
पर,
करेंगे.
नेबर्स आएंगे, और अगर आएंगे तो वो ये बंदूक लिए हैं, इन्फ्यूरिएट होंगे, मारेंगे. क्योंकि इस हद तक वो नेबर को मारने चले गए जो उनका ऑब्जेक्ट भी नहीं था, तो दैट मींस दैट कि
हाँ, वो ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं था, बट लाइकली इन द कमीशन ऑफ द ऑफेंस.
यस
नरेश के घर वाले भी निकल सकते थे, ये तो पड़ोसी निकला है. नरेश के घर वाले अगर निकलते तभी भी तो होते ना लाइबिलिटी.
यस मैम, बिकॉज इट्स नॉट रिटन कि लाइक नेबर्स वेयर लाइक वो नेबर्स पिस्टल लेके आ गए या ऐसा कुछ, वो तो बस
ना
ऑब्जेक्ट
ना,
कर रहे थे.
नेबर्स तो राइट ऑफ प्राइवेट डिफेंस में आए हैं.
यस मैम. ओके मैम, थैंक यू.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know what I'll do, that because there are students who are saying we're on another center and we don't have access, I'll write to the PIC and she might perhaps put a link on our web page for access to these recordings. So all students, whoever want to, they can have a look at the recordings. I'll do that. So that students who are not on my list can also access these recordings. I'll do that.